So you've got it all, right? The credentials, the impressive results, the validation from people you actually respect. And yet, you walk into a room and feel like a total intruder. You're just waiting for that tap on the shoulder, that moment when everyone realizes you've been faking it. Okay, let's dive into this paradox. Because what if that feeling isn't a weakness at all, but a sign of a much, much deeper strength? I mean, that's what it comes down to. It's this visceral gut feeling that everything you've accomplished is somehow unearned, like you're living under a false identity. It's a really painful and isolating experience, but you know what? It's incredibly common for people who are at the very top of their game. And here is the central question we're going to tackle. See, all the conventional wisdom tells you, oh, you just need more confidence. But what if that's completely backwards? What if that nagging feeling of being a fraud is actually the byproduct of having a high-fidelity awareness, of seeing the world with way more clarity and detail than almost anyone else? So first, let's just diagnose this thing. We have to acknowledge and validate this feeling, that constant low-level hum of anxiety that you're about to be found out. Think about how specific these thoughts are. It's not just a vague feeling. It's the concrete belief that your success isn't because you're skilled, it's just luck, good timing. It's that kind of cynical thought that, well, people only praise you because they're not seeing the full picture. They have a low-resolution view. And always lurking in the background is that tap on the shoulder, the moment the whole charade is finally up. All right, now let's get into the mechanics. Let's look at the biology that's actually driving this doubt, because we're shifting now from just the feeling to the cause. And, spoiler alert, this is not a personality flaw. It's about how your brain is wired to process the world. Your brain, at its core, is a prediction machine. That's its job. So when you get a great result, 100% success, your prefrontal cortex tries to square that with your internal map of who you are. But because you are so hyper-aware of every tiny flaw, every messy bit, every unplanned detour in the process, your self-map is incredibly critical. So your brain sees this 100% success, compares it to your internal 20% mess map, and it just can't compute. It flags a predictive coding error. It basically concludes the external success has to be the mistake. And here's the wild part. We can actually quantify this. This feeling, this intensity, isn't just some vague anxiety floating around. We can represent it as a real relationship between two competing forces. This formula illustrates it perfectly. Your feeling of fraudulence is your super high-res 8K awareness of how complex things are, divided by whatever external validation you get. So think about it. As the top number, your deep understanding, grows and grows, the bottom number, other people's praise, starts to feel, well, shallow, low resolution. And that just makes the feeling of being a fraud even stronger. You've probably heard of the Dunning-Kruger effect, right? Where people with really low ability wildly overestimate how good they are. Well, this is the complete opposite. It's Dunning-Kruger in reverse. Because you find these incredibly complex tasks to be just standard. You naturally assume they must be easy for everyone else. You're not lying to anyone, you're just overestimating the shared social resolution. And because of that, you don't see your own mastery as anything special. Okay, so this brings us to a really powerful reframe. We are going to completely dismantle this identity of the imposter, and we're going to replace it with something way more accurate and way more empowering, the sentinel. I mean, just look at this distinction. On one side, you've got the dandelion. They see the world in like 240p, a fuzzy surface-level understanding, and they're totally satisfied with that, happy to call themselves an expert. But then there's you, the sentinel. You see the world in 8K. You perceive the hidden complexities, the infinite variables, the hidden nodes. And it is precisely because you see the true, staggering depth of a subject that you feel like you haven't mastered it. Let that one sink in for a second. That feeling that you have been so ashamed of, it is not a sign that you are inadequate. It is hard proof that you operate with a higher standard of resolution and awareness than most people around you. It's not imposter syndrome. It's sentinel's integrity. So what do we do with this new identity? If we accept that we're sentinels, what's the game plan? Because the old advice is completely useless here. We need a new mandate, a whole new course of action. Fake it till you make it. I mean, come on, that is a dandelion platitude if I've ever heard one. It asks you to be an insecure performer. The Sentinel's mandate is the exact opposite. Document the signal. You stop performing and you start becoming a clinical archivist. Your focus shifts away from your internal feelings and onto the objective, cold, hard data of your results. And here is another absolute game changer. That thing you've been calling self-doubt, it's not.
It's actually a highly valuable skill. It is an acute sensitivity to error. It's the very thing that allows you to produce such high-quality work in the first place. And that shame you feel, it's just a misinterpretation of that signal. It's just metabolic noise from your brain trying to process the gap between your infinite potential and your very human execution.
This one shift changes your entire internal conversation. You move away from these subjective, draining questions about your self-worth, and you move towards questions of objective reality. The results you produce, those are the only 8K data points that actually matter. So, is the data correct? If the answer is yes, then the feeling is just noise.
Okay, so let's get really practical. How do we physically put this into action and neutralize that thief in the mind? We're going to use a simple, four-step system called the evidence protocol.
Okay, step one, the moment that feeling hits, you stop and you label it. You say, this is a knowledge gap, not a value gap. This simple act shifts the data from your reactive amygdala to your thinking prefrontal cortex. Step two, keep an 8K log. A physical ink-on-paper journal of hard data and objective outputs. No vibes, no feelings, just hardware evidence. Step three is a comparison audit. You have to stop comparing your internal, messy 8K behind-the-scenes documentary to someone else's polished 240p movie poster. And finally, step four, when you feel like an intruder, you affirm out loud, I am at my post. The signal is verified.
And you have to remember, the goal was never perfection. The goal was resolution. Your purpose isn't to be flawless. It's to be the person in the room who sees the nuance, the complexity, and the depth that is literally invisible to everyone else. That is your value. So, the final question really is for you. Now that you understand that your high-resolution awareness isn't a curse, but an incredible tool, how are you going to use it? Which signals of truth, of complexity, of integrity are you going to choose to document and amplify in your own work and in your own life?